All right, hi. I'm Robert Noel. You made it to Guitar Time for You. I'm so glad you're here. I hope that you'll hit the subscribe button and the like button, and you're welcome to leave me comments. This is for you. This is for your guitar playing. All styles, the theory, the ear training, everything is here. Just search through the playlist. Hi, welcome to Guitar Time. I'm Robert Noel. This lesson's on octaves. Let's go to our Form 1 major scale, okay? We play our Form 1 major scale, and we play up to 8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's an octave. If I play those two notes together, A and A, that's my low octave of Form 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's my upper octave, or my high octave in Form 1. So, in that low octave, I've got a spread. I've got two open strings in between, the A and the A, and then on the second octave, I've got one string between my first finger and fourth finger, the open B string. So I want to get good at moving this around. In your scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it turns into a 1-3 pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the top of the minor, 3, 1. So I think the 1-3 pattern is a pattern you should use more often. I would call the 2-4 pattern or the 4-2 pattern an alternate pattern that you could use in certain cases, and it might work out better depending on what you're playing. But for Form 2 right now, we're going to call the low octave 1-3 with one string in between, and then the upper octave of Form 2 has two strings between, the G and the B string. When I go to Form 3 and I play my major scale, instead of putting the root here, I'm going to put the root on the B string. And my A is on the 7th position, and my A is up here on the 10th fret. So there's my other octave pattern. It's the same pattern that I had in Form 1, just on different strings. So I have that one string in between when I'm up here in the 7th position for my A's. I mean, if I included the other part of Form 3, the lower octave, well, that's actually part of Form 2. So we've already got that associated with Form 2. So Form 3 is just this one octave from the major scale, okay? If I go to Form 4, I see that 4-2 pattern, that alternate pattern. We call an alternate pattern. If you use 3-1, I think it's a better finger to move around and be more useful more often. So once again, you have that spread of the two open strings in between. When I go to Form 5 and I play the low octave here, I see I have the same thing. I would have that 2-4 spread, exactly the same as Form 2. If I play the minor scale, I get the 1-3. So there we go. How many do we have? We've got two patterns for Form 1, and then we've got two patterns for Form 2, one for 3, one for 4, and one for 5. That's 7 octave patterns. You must know these 7 octave patterns. So back up to Form 5. I've got my Form 5, and if I played the top octave of the Form 5 scale, I'd get up to the 17th fret with an A. If I put my first finger down to the 14th position, A, on the G string, I get that same pattern that I had in Form 1. So actually, I'm back to Form 1. Form 5 has brought me to Form 1. And I would also have that fourth finger, first finger, fourth finger. I could go on to Form 2 and play my 2 octave patterns. And my Form 3, well, I'd have to have another fret, and I could pull off my Form 3 A octave. Another thing is if I go back to Form 5 and let's say I use another fingering like first finger, second finger for the octave, and my baby finger for the top, I can get a 2 octave spread that could be movable if I work on the technique. Playing that down here would be really difficult. But when you get up to the compensation of the frets is closer, you can get that double octave. And we may talk about that in a later lesson. But so far, we've gone through the 7 octave forms. Some are the same fingering form, but I'm associating these 7 forms or types with 5 forms of scales. We have an association now. Another thing that you're going to do with these octaves is to develop your skill and your knowledge so that you can use them to learn your notes, navigate the fretboard, the geometry of the fretboard, the intervals. You'll start to see your octaves within all of your scales. You'll start to see them within arpeggios. If I play an arpeggio, I see my octaves. So seeing your octaves is helping you root yourself. It's giving you a root to your patterns. And your patterns, of course, can be arpeggios, scales, could be chords. What if I play an A bar chord? Well, do I see my octaves in there? If I play a D, do I see my form 5 octaves? Here would be my form 2 octaves. Play an A chord down here with my first finger, I see my octaves. So octaves are a really good way to get a view of your notes, to learn your notes really well. But what about the skill and technique? Well, if I've got to take this pattern here, well, I've got my pick. I could pick these notes. I could also strum them. But to do that technique, I've got to mute out the 2 strings in the middle. So my 4th finger has to touch the 5th string, and my index finger has to touch the 4th string to mute that. So there's a technique involved here to play these octaves. When you play the upper octaves, it's a little easier because you've got 1 string to mute, which would be my index finger muting the B string. My minor scale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when I get this technique together, I could do rhythms, which is really cool. I can slide. I can pick, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I could hit the upper note, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So there's some techniques I can do with my picking. I can slide up, slide down. So I'm using the top part of form 2 here.
This is just to remind you, after this video, there are more videos. If you keep watching, you're going to find some more videos that you're going to go, wow, I like this. This is great. This is groovy.
What if I was using these lower? Well, I've got to mute that middle string, that A string. So my index finger is touching the A string. Would be the same thing for form 5. And then when we get to the top of that form 2, once again, I've got those 2 strings I've got to mute. So I have to mute the G string here with my 3rd finger. And then I'm going to mute that B string with my index finger. So I've got to really position well here to do this. It takes a lot of practice to develop these skills. But eventually you should be able to play any a major scale, minor scale, a blues scale, a dominant scale, even a pentatonic scale in octaves. So you're moving vertically as well as horizontally. Horizontal and vertical. And then you can work on the skills, the techniques, and octaves are wonderful. They allow us to see patterns and develop patterns and be creative in so many ways. We start to see them in our scales, our arpeggios. We can create melodies. Just as I was doing an A here, like if I'm doing A minor. Bum, 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 bum. So melodies, you could be soloing and you could be throwing in some octaves here and there. You might want to listen to guys that use octaves. The great late Wes Montgomery, a jazz player that used wonderful use of octaves in his melodies of songs, around jazz chords and adding some intervals to his octaves sometimes, and just a really beautiful things that you could do with octaves and making that melody stand out. Jimi Hendrix, let's see, Third Song from the Sun. So you get that another octave with the E in the bottom. So you get the vibrato bar and get that technique going. Hendrix, of course, used octaves in quite a few of his solos and songs. Very powerful, makes punches out. And there are many other guitar players that use octaves. And not only guitar players, piano players, keyboard players, everybody. We use octaves. Octaves are an important part of music. And to be able to sing 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 8, 1, 8, 1, 1, 8, 8. If I could sing that high, right? So your octaves, very important. Trains your ear. You'll hear octaves when other players are using them. It's going to open up your creativity to add some other kind of grooviness in that just might find a really nice place. When people see you using octaves and using them, they're going to go, wow, cool. Maybe you just want that melody to sound nice and strong. So many reasons, so many uses for octaves. Okay, so you want to work on the technical skill of playing your scales and octaves. You want to be able to slide them, be able to pick them with your pick. There's one other technique that I use. If I take my pick, and let's say I'm going to use my thumb now and my second finger. So now I'm just plucking. I could still strum with my thumb, but now I can pluck. So that's a cool technique to use too. All right, octaves. You got to learn the 7 forms, associate them with the major scales, and then any key you ought to be able to play scales and octaves. Minor scales, major scales, dominant scales, blues scales, pentatonic scales, and maybe you just start coming up with melodies. Bum ba da ba da ba da dum. Ba, 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 da, da, da. And you go, wow, I want to find that in octaves. And then that's going to be really cool. Bum, ba, da, dum, da, da, bum, 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 bum. Octaves are so cool, so much fun. They cause the light to come on. Sometimes you go, wow, you make discoveries. You can go on more adventures with octaves. Discoveries, safaris, an exhibition of octaves. Wow. How groovy is that? Anyways, good luck on your octaves. Take your time. They're not mastered in a week or two. You have to work on them for a long time, but you've got to be mindful of them, and you've got to have really good finger placement. And then you've got to get into the technique of muting strings out so you can pluck or you can strum or you can pick with your down up or up down. The technique and the skills. Getting good sounds on your octaves, matching 2 notes to sound the same volume. So when you strum them, they're effective, okay? All right, so this is the first octave lesson. I hope you go a long ways with practicing octaves. And I think once you get into it for a while, you'll start to see how important they are. And you'll really start to use them. Just one more thing. Let's just say I was using my A form 1 here. So I got my form 1s. What if I did my practice? Okay, now I want to go to my G form 2s. There they are. How about my form 3F? It's right there. How about a form 4D? How about a form 5C? So you see I'm putting all those 5 forms in one area here. You can do it throughout the geometry of your fretboard. You're going to learn your notes a lot better. You're going to see things, make discoveries. All right.